Could you please state your name for me, please?
Michael Yates,
And your date of birth, if you don't mind.
2/10/53.
Lovely. So could you tell me about your ancestor or your relative who was involved in the First World War? What was his name?
He's called Moses Yates. He was my great uncle. He was the brother of my nana, and there was 5 children in the house. So he was the eldest, and the others 4 girls.
How old was Moses at the outbreak of the war?
He was 16.
And how old was he when he joined?
16.
And what happened to him when he joined? Who did he join? Which regiment?
He joined the army on the 2nd of January 1915. He was 16. I think he was about 16 and a half years old, roughly. He joined the Lancashire Fusiliers, and so he'd have been training, I would imagine, and his first posting abroad was to Gallipoli, so he wasn't in any action up until then.
Did he ever write home or anything? Did you ever have any diaries telling you?
He wrote home to his mother, yeah, there's a couple of notes. Writing to his mother on November the 7th of 1915, Moses said, "Things are very quiet here at present. We are at Silver Bay, so you can watch our movements in the newspaper. We landed on the peninsula on September the 25th and went into trenches on the 30th, 5 days later, and we are still in them. That means we have had 38 days in the trenches without being relieved." In his last letter home, written on November the 22nd, probably a week before he died, "Just a line to let you know, I received the journal and your letter. A great many who came out with our draft have gone off the peninsula sick. In most cases, they have dysentery." That was the last letter he ever wrote.
Thank you very much, Nick. That was great. It would have been better if we didn't have library staff laughing in the background, but you can't. And what happened to Moses during Gallipoli?
Well, I know he landed in Gallipoli in September 1915, and I think he was in action virtually from the beginning. He was in the trenches within a week, and I believe the trenches were very close to the Turkish lines, and there wasn't a great deal in them. And at first, I believe it wasn't too bad. It's just the occasional snipering, shelling. And then it led up to, I know what it led up to him dying on the 1st of December 1915. I know that previous to that, the weather changed dramatically. First of all, there was heavy rain, thunder, and obviously all the troops were soaked. There was no shelter in the trenches as such. And that was followed by really freezing weather conditions, and that's what he died of.
So how old was Moses when he died?
When he died on the 1st of December, he was 17, 4 months, I think. He wasn't 17 and a half years old.
How does that make you feel, Mick?
Well, stories, obviously from my aunties, his four sisters. There was Polly, who was the youngest. There was my Auntie Annie, my Auntie Lily, my Auntie Minnie. Their memories of him are obviously pretty clouded, going back in time. But my Auntie Annie did tell me that when he did join the army, they didn't want him to go. They had an abusive father who shortly after they separated, so the mother and father separated because he was an abusive drunk, which didn't help. So they wanted him to stay for, protection, and so they were very sad. And I believe he returned home once on leave. I think he's been training Durham, I think, not sure. He did return home once on leave before he did depart to before he went on the train and boat to Gallipoli. But the memories were pretty hazy about that. They all had a hating of Winston Churchill, because at the time he was a Sea Lord and it was his part in it, and because there was no gains with Gallipoli, it was just a nightmare for the army, for the Allied soldiers. I mean, altogether with the Anzacs, I believe there were 56,000 men killed, in a space of about 6 months, with the loss of shipping and all. And obviously Churchill was demoted for it, and I believe he actually returned to the ranks and went to fight in France to try and recover his reputation, which he obviously did. But it didn't help. It didn't help people who lost loved ones. They still had that dislike of Churchill.
And your family felt that resentment?
Yeah, they felt that resentment. That generation felt that resentment at the time. For myself, I joined the army when I was 17, and I thoroughly enjoyed the army. But I did time in Northern Ireland, and I had a choice after that, and I did come out of the army. And it wasn't because I disliked the army or anything, I really liked it, but I could see the stress it was causing, so I just did 3.5 years and then came out. So it had a lasting impression on myself. I had an uncle who was in the army, and I followed his footsteps.
Have you got any objects or documents passed down to you that to do with Moses?
I've got a picture of him in his army uniform, which was taken, which the family kept and passed on to me. And I have what they call the death penny. I have a brother who lives down south, and he has the medals, because there's only 2 of us, and I had the death penny and he had the medals, which were given out just for dying. That's all they were. Another thing is that when he did die on the 1st of December, the family didn't find out until the following year. I think it was about 4 months later that they found out he was dead.
Was he just listed as missing before then?
Yeah.
Is there a grave for Moses?
There's no grave for Moses, but he's on his name